Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be learning Refuah Shlema, Imi Marasi, Miriam Basra. She should have Refuah Shlema, Bakar of Mamash. We're going to be starting from the Mishnah, Samach Zayin and Beis. We hope to get all the way until somewhat of Ayin Dalad on Beis, after all the Maisim of Rabbah over there. So let's jump right in. HaMoicher es Beis HaMerchatz, Loi Mochas and Isorin. The Rishbam is Masber. A Beis HaMerchatz has 3 rooms. One room is you go in, and another room is to undress, and another room is where the etzem, the merchatz is. Over there, Dr. Rishbam Avada, all those rooms are sold. However, there are other stuff in a Beis merchatz, which is our Mishnah is going to clarify certain accessories, certain stuff that are part of the Beis merchatz, if it's sold or not. So, Meicher is Beis merchatz, Loi Machas and Isarin. We have these boards. The halach is, it's not sold. Now, the point that the Rishbam brings two pshatim, what those boards, the accomplishment is, either so you shouldn't get your feet dirty or feet hot, whether it's protecting the floor, protecting your feet, but there are boards on the ground. The S hasifalin, we have these basins, they fill them up with water, ice, which are these curtains, or they are towels. The halacha is they're not sold. Bisman shamalai hi v'chol ma shebesaycha rekula and mechurin, and they're all sold. Benkach ubenkach zok the Mishnah loy machar es amegoyer shamayim loy setzar shaleitzim. Whether you had a place where to fill up water or for firewood to heat it up, zok the Mishnah Avada, it's not sold. Why? Because you could use it not just for the merchatz itself. The Rishbam says elamamaynahan lahanis behen afilu b'toich beisai. Therefore, Dr. Rishbam Avada, this megar shamayim, even in a scenario where you say benkach ubenkach, it's still not going to be sold. Those two, the itzar shamayim and the basins of water. Zok the Gemara, let's jump right into it. Tanu Rabbanon. HaMoicher samerchatz, someone who sells his Beis HaMerchatz, Machar es Bais and Isarin. You sell the closets for these boards. There's Bais Ayakamit, which is turbans. They would wrap their heads around it. Even today we find such a thing where right after Schwitz you want to wrap your head. There's Bais HaSvolim, whether it's the closet for these basins. There's Bais HaVelois, whether it's the closet for the towels. Avelois and Isarin Atzman. However, you do not sell the boards itself. Veloy Yikamin Atzman, not the turbans, we'll call them, the towels around the head. Veloy Sefol and Atzman, not the benches, the basins, Veloy Atzman, or the towels. Ozvizman, Zok the Gemara. Shamar Lohi, V'chol Maisha Besaycha, then Hare, Kula, and Mechurin, everything is sold. Zok the Gemara, Benkach, Ubenkach, Loy Machar, Loy Esa Brechos, Hamushapkos, Loy B'mai, Baby Moisa Chamo, Baby Moisa Kshomim. One Samachesam at Aleph, Zok the Gemara. However, he's never going to sell these water reservoirs. Whether it's even in the Moisa Chama, and the Rishbam is Mazda, the first Rishbam of the Daf says, since they're small, since there's very little water, Sal Kadai Techamino should be Mevatel, Lagabe the Merchatz, Kamash Malon, not. However, Veloy, Beis, Kinos Eitzim, who would then, the place where they would have the firewood, Zok the Gemara, it's not sold. V'im Amar Loi, Beis HaMerchatz, V'chol Tashmishav, I'm telling you all the Tashmishav, all the accessories with it, and Imachalach Kula Mechur. Zok the Gemara, there's a person told his friend, Beis Bad v'chol tashmishav ani meichelcha. I'm selling you this olive press and all it's tashmishav with it. Now there was a little room where they would spread sesame seeds to dry it out in order to make oil. However, the Rishbam says the ikar point was for pas v'yayin. They sold it for pas v'yayin. So what is the halacha? Also, we have a braysim. So everything is sold. Therefore, this will be sold. It's not so it shouldn't be sold. We see he adds that in. Kani, the Rishbam gives 2 mahalchim. We're going to go with the first mahalach when he adds the scenario by saying Ilam Mitzaharna. We don't just say Mitzarim Herchivlai. We learned earlier the concept of Nachman Mitzarim Herchivlai. When he adds it Ilam Mitzaharna, then we're going to say it's not Mitzarim Herchivlai, and he sold it. Why? The kiv and the chazis are K'doshbam lahach Bais ksas letashmish Beis abad v'hu b'techa meitzer vaday machreloi. The lakach tichem sa meitzer chutzeloi ad kan Rishbam. He gives another mahalach that it goes depends on l'shainis, but he doesn't like it. Zok the heilige Mishnah. HaMoiches er, someone who sells a city. Machabatim bari shichin amarais, the vaults, the ditches, and everything. Merchatois, v'shavachais, his dovecoats, Beis abadin, Beis hashachin. He's Olive presses, or Beis Shachan, we're going to see Dafka. We always learn Beis Shachan, the first Mishnah Chav Chesem at Aleph. If Beis Shachan usually means the irrigated field, we're going to see over here it doesn't mean necessarily that. However, the metaltalin is not sold. Even when you have animals and slaves, Kula and Mechurin. Reb Shimon Gamliel Leimer, HaMoicher Seir, someone who sells a city, Machar is a center. We're going to see center is going to be the whole Amid Bay, exactly what it is, whether it's an event that's going to, we're going to see it. We're going to go right into it. Zakti Mara Amalei Rav Achaber Rav Avilar Vashi. Shamas Mine, L'chayra, Frekting Mara, over here we can see, Avda Kimatalta Dami, Di Kimakarka Dami, Nizdavin Agav Masa. Frektor Jbam, Zaktor Jbam, the Jbam explains, it's really, Gemara's asking a question. We have a Shaila B'chlal in the Gemara if Eved has a halacha of Karka, if Eved has a halacha of Metaltalin, in the Gemara and Perak Misha Meis to bring it down, and the Maisa we don't come out. So Frektor Shbam L'chayr over here, you should see that the halacha is that Avodim have a din of Metaltalin, because if it would be Karka, then it would be sold Aga the city, and the Mishnah clearly says not. So the Frektor Gemara L'chayr V'amai Zaktor Shbam Ikal L'Mishnah Masnisin D'Hacha. Over here, we clearly see that it has a din of metaltalin, so why in the Gemara later is not bringing it as a right from our mission? And the Gemara answers, well, am I going to tell me, Avda is metaltal dummy? How's it going to help you? Then, Maya Filu, why does the Mishnah have to say Afilu? Chartzadav Pashut, that it's sold. You know why it says Afilu? To tell us to be mechalik something. Shani be metaltal the night, metaltal loy night. To be mechalik, Eved, we all know, maybe could have a din of metaltalin, but it moves. You can't compare it to a regular tashmit. That the Mishnah says afilu. If so, afilu teima avda k'mekarka dami, and it can be mechalik. Why it's sold, even though stam karka is not sold over here because it's night. Shani bein mekarka denied, the mekarka deloy night. So therefore, there's no raya in each direction. Now we're going to focus exactly what the words, the end of the Mishnah of center. Rav Shimon Gamliel Leimer hamoicher seir machar is a center. My center. Hacha Tegamiu in Bavel, they were metargemet bar Nachmaniyasa. And the Rashbam explains what's that mean. It's a Eved Hamemune Lahagid. They're the people where we go today to a clerk, the village clerk, the county clerk, and tells us exactly where all the sadis are and all the measurements and everything. So we call it a clerk. Shimon ben Avtolimus Aimer Bagi. What is that? It's the outskirts of the Medina, all the sadis in the outskirts. That's what the center is. So Zaktigmar, Man Damar Bamachmaniyasa, the people that hold that had said this is the Eved Hamemune Kol Shekain Bagi. That the halacha is that it's sold. Why? Because Madach Bagi is much more comparable to a sada, to a karka, to a ear. Which is a clerk, there we can understand that it's sold. Now that's the chiddush of the Mishnah. It's a kol shekin. Mandama Bagi, I'll tell you, aval bar mechmanasa loy mizdavin, that itself will not be sold. Zokter Shbam mishum deny it, like we saw earlier, because Lamaisa has movement. That's a person. Tanan, Zokter Mishnah, Bais abadim, ubeis hashalchan. That's what our Mishnah says. Zokter Gemara, Savrua mai shalchan. What did we think shalchan means? Bagi. It means these fields. That's what shalchan means. The chsev, like we see, v'shaleach mayim, and he sends wood up pnei chutzas in the outskirts. So we clearly see lashon shaleach. So Zaktamar Bishlamanda Bamachayasa, then we can understand our Mishnah that what? If you tell us Tanakama that what? Bagi is sold Misdavni, because that's what Shalchan means. Misdavin. And comes Rishim Gamliel Basra Rishim Gamliel Mafilu. That what? Bamachmanasa Nami Misdavin. That makes sense. Elamanda Bagi. You're telling me that Beis Shalchan means Bagi and center means Bagi, then we have a problem. Tanakama Nachmi Ochikamer, because that's what Beis Shalchan means. And that the Gemara says, no, Misav is my Shalchan Bagi loy. Does not mean that my Shalchan Ginunaisa means gardens. Shenemar, like it says in the Pasuk, Shalachayich, your land should be Pardes Remainim, should be orchards of Remainim. Avabagi nechanami loy mizdav. No, v'asar b'shem gamliel ameima that what? Afilu bagi. Even these fields, nami mizdav. That's the first malach. Ikadami, very similar to backwards. Savruah mai shalchen means gardens, ginunaisa. So frektimar bish, lamandama bagi, we could understand. That means fields. Oh, matanakama, that what? Ginunaisa mizdavin, bagi loy mizdavni. Dafka, these gardens, but these outside fields are not sold. Also, Rav Shimon Gamliel lemeima filu bagi misnavni. That even those fields stole. Now it's on a chesem base. Elamanda alma b'amachanaisa. Then, however, according to the Malach who holds it's Bar Mechanasa, Amatanakama Ganaisa, Umahadal Shim Gamliel, Bar Mechanaisa, he's not talking to each other, comes out. There are really three different things. There's this clerk, we call this, Evan Amun Alamidus, and then there's Bagi, and then there's Ganaisa L'chayra. He's not answering up to the Nakuda of Bagi verse Bar Mechanaisa. So my answer is no. Misavas my shalching and Isa loy my shalching avada means bag. The chsiv like the first place we saw v'shaleach mayim al pnei chutzais. However, Bar Mechanasa loy is David taka not sold. Why? Because it's a clerk v'asim mishum lim la'asa. Reb Shimon gam li'alamim mada filu Bar Mechanasa is nami is David. It's taka sold. Toshma. Zok the Mar Yehuda is centered einemacher. We're trying to bring a riot to which way? Either means a clerk and evan munah, or it means bagi. Ankulmus, mach. What's ankulmus? Zok Rishbam hu Seifer hamelech lichtov mishpasad. So we call it a Seifer. So my lad, the Gemara's understanding in the Hamina. Meda ankulmus gaver, right? That's a Seifer. Santa nami gaver makes sense to say that a Santa is also a person. Fact, the Mara, me here, you're Hakadis. Each one has their own category. Just because a Seifer is a person, why are you comparing the Tait Santa also? Can you really stam as I say this? Tani Seifa clearly says that a person sells a field of a ear. Not the remnants, we're going to see what this means. The kfarim, the villages are next it. Or the forests that are set aside for this ear. Enclosures, traps, whatever they are, of animals, ifas and dugim. We said, what does it mean, Shiera? What does it mean, these remnants? Bisley. My Bisley, so what's Bisley? Amar Baba Piski Bagi. So there's Bagi, which is in the outskirts of the field, and then there's even more little fields that are separated in the outskirts. So Zoktamar, Piski Bagi, who delay misdavni. We're making a diak. Dafka the Piski is not sold. Habagi, the fields itself, Asmon, even though they're in the outside, misdavni. So l'chayr, we clearly see that the outside Bagi is sold. So how could you tell us Maches Seir? And you want to tell us that Rosh Gamliel wants to say, in such a case, it is sold. Zok the Gemara, no, Epoch. You have to read it that Yehuda is the one Hoimer Santa Macher. Punkt verkent Galaimus, Eine Macher. Frek the Gemara, could you really say that Yehuda holds Santa is like Rosh Gamliel? Mi matzis Amish Yehuda, Rosh Gamliel, Svirle. We all know of Yehuda Rabban, Yehuda, Kera Rabban, and Svirle. The Ktani Sefer, how do we know? This says in the Sefer, Allah Shirah, V'Levin Asel. You're not selling these remnants, or this these suburbs, or these villages, like Kfarim Masmuchim. Someone who sells a city. How do we know this? The Tanya Meichaseh, someone who sells a city. And that my answer is no. Reb Yehuda, Savalei Kavase Bechada, Reb Yehuda, regarding a center, holds like Shimon Gamliel. However, regarding this Kfar Masmuchim law, he argues, okay, very good, Shmak, Polig Lebechad. Zok the Gemara weiter, V'lei Vivrin Shal Chaim Shal Eifei Shal Dagim. Frek the Gemara, we clearly said those stuff are not sold. Or meaning, Hayu Lebanon, he has his suburbs, Einim Karsima. Hayu Lechelek Echa Bayam, V'chelek Echa B'Yabasha, Vernigel, let's say in Florida, Miami Beach, whatever, you have a part of the city is an island, and part of it's in Yabasha. Or Bibrin Shachayv Shalev Shadagim, Hare Elu Nimkar Mima. So clearly says it is sold. How can you tell me it's not sold? Like Kasha, fan for the Gemara, it's not sure. When it's facing, going inbound towards the city, then it's sold. When it's going outside, it's not sold. Even the forests that are set aside are sold, and we're thinking, even if it's facing the other direction, as long as it's set aside, it's away from it. The muksa usually always means over here. It's separated and it's facing away. Taka the city. That's why it's not sold. Zok the Mishnah on Samechesam Bais. Ha-moicher asada, someone who sells a field. Mocher savonim shehem letarka. We're going to see this all in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to explain all the scenarios and everything. A person sells the stones for the field. There's sakinim shebekarim shehem letarka, whether it's these reeds in a karim for tzayrich. There's atfuah shemuchaberes lekarka. We're going to see all the chidushim in the Gemara. There's chitzah sakinim shepsuchim beis raiva. You have these tickets of reeds. It's all coming from one gaza. The halacha is, if it's pachas beis raiva, it's sold. There's a shemira she'en esui betit dafka. This little hut that a Scheiner would be in, as long as not have clay in it, it's not sold. V'sacharov she'enoi murkov. Yeah, this carrot tree, if it's not grafted, v'spsulas hashikma, which is not pruned yet. We're going to have to see the Gemara. The Gemara is going to explain the chiddush over there. It's not for the tzarech. When it's not for the tzarech, where it's tolish, we're going to have to see why you think it is sold. Bisman, zok the Mara, zok the Mishnah, bisman sham Elohai. He v'chol mashe b'seicha rei kula mechur. However, benkach loy machar loy es chitza sakinim she Beis Raiva. Even as long as it's a Beis Raiva, it's a davar chashuv b'fnei atzma. It has a din of a sadav b'fnei atzma. It's like the Rashbam said, it's like selling two separate fields. V'loy es a shemira shehi asuya betit. Once that's clay, it's also davar chashuv. V'loy es charva morkov. V'loy es sadan hamishkan. A shikma. Once it's grafted or it's pruned, it's full. Avad that's considered davar chashuv b'fnei atzma. Once samach tesam at aleph, top of the amud, zok the Gemara. My avonim shehein letzarcha. What does it mean when we're saying these stones from the field? What is the purpose? What is this? Hachaim bavel tagimu avni da achpa. Nashbamas master is basically after you cut the himer, you wanted to dry, you didn't want the wind to blow it away, you put it as weights. To hold it down, we would call it weights. Ula amar avonim hasedurais legader. These are regular stones where we would have a retaining wall. It's making a nice, beautiful wall. Even if it's not totally mesuder and set up, as long as you place it over there, it's sold. You have to read it in Echanami Stures. Okay, very geschmack. Now we have Shitas Rameir and Shita. We saw this in Chesam Beis, where Shitas Rameir and Rabbanan. Rameir holds Macha Karim, someone who sells a Karim even sells Tashmisha Karim. So it comes out the Rameir is always more what? Always more makel that Yechayr it's going to be sold in a step closer. So Zok Gemara. Hacha Targimu Avni Da'achma. In a scenario where he ties these rocks as weights, the Avonim, Leira Meir de Misakner. Meir would hold as long as what? The Misakner, as long as you prepared it. Afagav, the loy machson. Even if they're not munach in the southern, they're ready, and they're in a different place. It doesn't make a difference. It's going to be sold. However, the Rabbanan dafkahu de machson. It has to be meyuchid harbe letashmish Dr. Shman. So only in the case where it's mamish ready. Lula da'amar avonim has durais legeder. However, according to Ula, where it's not weights, where it's not totally if it's ready for the field or not. Avonim are prepared, mamish to Ula meir de misakin on afagav de sidron. According to our meir, it's going to be sold even if you didn't put it on top of each other. It doesn't make a difference as long as you were misakin it for the wall. However, the Rabbanan dafku the sidron only then and then it will be sold. Okay, v'sakim akonim shebekarim shehein letzarkim. Frektig Mara, konim ma'yavi tetayu. What is the purpose? Dr. Ishba, the konim stama mashmalei makim gedulan. So what's going on over here? Why would you have these konim? Amar the Rebbe Yana, no, we're talking about konim hamechulakim shemamidin tachas akfonim. Ishba is masmim mifutzalim. You stripped it from his bark. You made it nice and smooth, and now you can use it for a purpose. What's the purpose? You're going to put it underneath the kfonim like that. It doesn't touch the ground. They get very dirty. So Dr. Marler, Mayor, the Meshafyan, Avagav, the Maikman. Even if you didn't put it underneath, as long as you smooth it out, stripped it from its bark, it's going to be sold. However, the Rabbanon, Davkuhu, the Maikman, Davku, when you put it underneath, it's sold. That's a Tvua, Hamechuberes, Lekarka. Dr. Mara, the Avagav, the Metoilim. So the Chiddush is, even when it's ready to get cut, you would tell me it's not sold, Kamash Walon, in such a scenario that it's sold. That's Chitzas Hakinim Shepsuchim Beis Raiva. Again, Avagav Di'ilimi. The Nakuda is, it's really totally in the shear of the Karka, not totally in the Etzem, what it is, whether it's strong or weak. That's a Shemir Sheini Subitit. Again, the Chiddush over there is, Avagav, the Loi Kavia Ba'ara. Even though it's not Kavu, it's not on the ground, you would say the should be maybe like a regular wood, a metaltum, it should be sold. It should not be sold. It's not on the sun. The Chiddush is, it's not Mechur B'tit, it's sold. V'sacharov, Scheiner Murkav Espesul, so Shekma again, Avagad Delimi, even when it's strong, it doesn't make a difference. It's not sold. Avaloi Machar, Loyes Avonim, Sheheinon, Litzak. Again, now we're going to go a little backwards. Lera Meir, when it's not sold, Deloi Misaknon. Dafka, when it's not Misaknon. Lerbanon, Deloi Machson. Only when it's not placed. Ulula, again, we're talking about the Amar Avonim Hasidurais, where it's not weights, rather it's a wall. Legather, Meir again, Deloi Misaknon. If it's not prepared, Lerbanon, only when it's not Deloi Sidron, Mamish when you misad, it's not sold. Deloi Sakinim Shebekar Chain Litzak. Meir, Deloi Mishafyon. Rabbanan again, Deloi Mukman, it's just backwards, it's the opposite of what we said earlier. Again, the Chiddush is, why would you think it should be sold? It's still not sold. The Katini. even when it's small. Okay, Amr of Chia bar the kini, even if it's very thin. Amr of Chia bar Rabba, Amr of Yechanan, loichitza sakinim abad la fila arug tana shel besamim veyesh lo shame if ne'atmo. When something has a shame on its own, then avada we're going to say it's not sold. Einim karsi. Amr Papa, will you see this? Yehuda karila. Varda de planya. Yeah, this is yenems. Aruga is baisam shaplini. These are yenems. These are Pliny's roses. Then it's not sold. Zoktim Gemara vayter v'loya shemira hasuya betit. Not this hot when it has tit. V'afagav has klei. V'afagav the what? The mechabra ba'ari. Even when it's connected to the karka, it's still not going to be sold. V'loy esacharov hamorkov. V'loy sadan hashikma. Boi Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer has a shaila as follows. Melamnoi shel psachim ma'u. The Rashbam says it's more really like a frame, but the purpose is as a door stopper, even though it's a frame. However, it's the door not to hit it. Now, the shaila is, we just, Zokter Rashbam, why are we having these three shailas we're going to see coming up? Since we had a shaila where mechalik, this hut, whether it has clay or not clay, maybe we're going to have a shaila over here regarding sikh, regarding pegs or not, if it's going to be mechalikin or not. So let's go through it. Whether you call it a doorstop, a regular door frame, that the purpose is a doorstop, what is the halacha? So what's the shayla? If it's mamish with clay, there's no shayla, it's a regular part of the house it's sold. Where's the shayla come? When you have it as removable pegs, now we have a shayla. Maybe since it's not mechuber mamish, it shouldn't be sold. Take it. Boi Reb Zeir. The Rashbam is masber. Im timtze loim, you're going to tell me that it is sold. There, I'll tell you, why it's sold? Because l'maisa it's l'chizuk avida, and you're doing it for the purpose. So now we have a shayla melabnoi shachaloinois ma. What about moldings of a window? Me, I'm reading just lenoi ba'amud davidi. It's very nice. It's for beauty. Therefore, it's not sold. Mashenk in the door stop or the door frame is not for lenoi. It's l'chizuk. Oidelma kivin the mechav mechav. L'maisa it's mechuber. Take. Again, it's an intim tzaloimer, it's sold. What is the halacha when you have these removable pegs underneath a bed? We use it as more of an extension. If you pick up the bed and those pegs are attached, it's not a shayla. Where do you have such a shayla? What is such a case? Since when you pick it up, it's left over there, then we should say it's bechlal not sold. Maiso we blind. Teku. If you realize I skipped 2 words early, V'avgav the Katini, the Bach puts it over here. Again, even where it's very thin, it doesn't make a difference. It's still not going to be sold. One Samach Tesam and Bais, top of them. Minon immediately, Zokter Rashbam, from where do we know that what? The Charv, Amurkav, the Sadan Shikma is Bechlal, not sold with the Sada. Amr of Yehuda, Merav, Dom, Krosh, Date in the Pasuk. Vayokim Sade Ephron Asher b'machpe. Vayokim stay Ephron Asher b'machpela. And the pasuk says Ashalifnei Mamre, and the end of the pasuk says Asher b'chol gvulei saviv. And we learn that that's miyusher. Why do we have to say that? To tell us Misha tzarich legvul saviv. Only then something that needs a gvul to tell us regarding the ilanis by the Mars machpela. Yatzu elu. Now she'en kein echar v'murkov. It doesn't need another gvul. It's so chash you can see it on its own. Shein tzarich legvul saviv. Amir shashim ikan. From here we see le'metzarim men atayra. The what? Someone who's kind of sasade. You're kind of the mitzarim itself. Okay, very good shmak. Amr of Yehuda. One the 2 dots. Samach tesam base. Hi man de mezabin ar lechavri. Someone who sells a field to his friend. Tzarich lemichtav he has to write in the star knilach. I'm selling you the diklin vitolin v'hutzim v'tzitzin. All different types of palm trees. We saw this a little in the beginning of Cheskes Abatim. We saw this regarding making different fences. Okay, all these stuff are sold. Even when you didn't write it in, still you should write it. Why shuf for the shtar? It's always good for the shtar. It's always extra. It's very geschmack to always make sure you're protecting yourself. Now we're going to have a shayla as follows. Amalei ara vidikli. I'm selling you a land. And I'm selling you palm trees. Zok Mar Chazina we see. Islay dikli, then no problem. Yoivle has to give him the bare minimum. It's 2 we always see when it's plural. Yoivle trade dikli. V lesle, what happens? He doesn't have palm trees. Zovin lay trade dikli. Then he has to go buy. Why Zak Dershbam Shaloi Mechusar Amana? Because Dershbam is really bringing out a point. The Chayr it's a davar Shaloi Bavar Shusay Davar Shaloi Balaylam. So how in the world you tell me sell it on that Dershbam to go buy it? On that Dershbam throws in Shaloi Mechusar Amana. Very geschmack. V less slaves on the trade dickly. V mishabdi. What happens? He has, however, there's a lien against him. Park lay trade dickly. Tak has to pay up that lien for those two to go. Now, what happens when he says Ara bid dickly? That was his lashon. I have a land that has the calm. Chazini is bid dickly. Regashmak. He's staying in a land that has the calm trees. Yoivle. Vilav mekach tosu. Already over there, you tell me I'm giving you something and you don't have it. Mela, it's avad that's considered a full-fledged mekach tos. What happens when he says Ara bid dickly? Ara Bey Dikli. So let's say Dikli doesn't get the calm tree because he says only a place that can hold the calm tree. The Chazir the Dikli Kamrele, because he's saying it's right to grow palm trees. It's enough space. And Ein Chanami, if it's a scenario where it's not possible to grow whether the land, it's not going to be sold to Mechatos. Amalei the bar Medikla Planya. What happens? He's selling I'm selling you everything except that specific palm tree. Chazinon, Dikle Tavahu Shir Shire. If that palm tree it itself produces more than usual, that is Mishayir. However, Idik Labishu, if it's one of the worst, then Kolsha Kain Hanach, then Kolsha Kain, anything above this palm tree is going to be sold, the quality of the palm tree. That's something that's taka, very shvach, less than this Dik Labishu will be sold. Amalei Libar Milone. Now we're going to handle, when we always learn, when we talk about vines, and we talk about the column, when we always mention that, you always have to clarify, what is it? Is it a sada? Maybe it's really Elon. It has a shame b'fnei atzma because it's chashuv. Where is the practical nafkamina? In a scenario where I use a lashon of Elon. So if I use a lashon of Elon, could you possibly say that the column or a vine taka could work with the word Elon? So let's see it inside. Amalei, I'm saying lebar milon. I'm selling you everything except my fruit trees. So if there are fruit trees, not a shayla, bar milona, it's very easy. So they very clearly said, I'm not selling you the fruit trees. Dikli. What happens when there's a palm tree? So could we say Elon's calling Dekel? And the Gemara says, yeah, lebar dikli means when he says Elon, he means the palm tree. Gufni. What happens not to call him rather it's vines? Again, lebar gufni. What happens when it's Ilonai vegufni? There, then about lebar milonai, because he's differentiating between a fruit tree and vines. Ilonai vedikli again lebar milonai. Where do you have a shayla? Is gufni vedikli. So you have palms and you have vines. So what does he be mechal? Exact tomorrow. It makes much more sense to say what Mistava to say lebar megufni. The vines are much closer to the fruit tree than the column. The column you can understand it's way more chashuv and it would have more of a concept of a sada. So when he's saying fruit trees, when you have an option between vines or the kolim, we would pick vines. Amarav, kol she'oilin loy bechevel havishir. We're going on earlier, where if a person sells ilonim and he says lebar milonai, it's not sold. Now what happens? There are certain trees, if they're very weak, they're very thin, then it's not chashuv ne'atzma. Those are not really trees. And they will be sold. So what is a tree? How do you make a gedder that this tree should not be sold, that it's considered a tree? So Amrav, kol she'oil loy bechevel havishir. If it's tall enough that you take a rope and you throw it up around, then you climb up to get up the tree, then avad it's considered a chashuv dika tree. However, kol she'ein loy bechevel loy havishir, something that's very small that you don't need a rope, then it's not considered a tree. Now on ayin amanal, v'dayayne gayel, which is Shmuel and Karna, they say no. Kol sha'ol koif sha'loy havishir. Anything that the yoke of the bucker is not going to bend it, this trunk is not considered shear. Kol she'ein ol koif she'havishir. I call it more like a crash barrier. It's very thick and very strong, that even if you hit it, there's no movement. It's very, very wide. Zok Demar v'loy pliki. They're not really arguing. Ha bidikli. The Rav is talking about where he talks about a chevel, makes him talking about a palm tree. Ha b'ilonai. Ilonai, it's really all about the thickness of the trunk. Mashein kain. Dekel, it's really tall, and the enough are very high. Very gishmak. What happens when a person says, chutz mecharev pleni, except the charev pleni, chutz mesadim pleni mao. So be'etzem, if you would have stayed quiet, the Mishnah clearly tells us you don't get it. Now he went and he added something he didn't have to say. He said, I dafku make sure that I'm not selling you Sadin Pliny, that very specific sadin. Do we say, since you dafka were added something you didn't need to add, Hashach Reuven Kani. You're coming to tell me I'm fine with the other cheruvim. I don't know. Shach Reuven Amalei Kana. Avada, nothing sold. But a lot of times I can understand that you want to make sure that it's very black and white. We don't want to get into bezdins. We don't want to have any issues. I don't want any arguments regarding this charuv. I need it. My life is, I'm relying on this for whatever. Then, that's the second side. But avada, nothing else will be sold. Amalei, like the second side, nothing sold. Why he said it? He did it to be extra safe in his head. There's a Bais says chutz mecharav pleni, chutz mesadim pleni loikana. We make a diak. My love, dafka is a charav with the loikana. Ha shach Reuven, you are sold kana. So chayra, how can you tell us in such a sneer it's not sold? And that Gemara says amalei loy afilu shach Reuven amalei kana. Teda, to bring this out, the ilo amalei sadim mechurlach. I'm selling you a field. Chutz mesadim pleni. The guy owns 100 fields. I'm saying I'm selling you a field A but not B. Yehuda like Kani, Achranisa Kani, you have a hamid to say suddenly all his other 99 fields are Kana Vadanished. El like Kana, Chanami Loi Kana. On that, the Rashbam says, what's his lashon? Ubi v'shvil sha'amar shtus zeh chutz misad pleni ein lanu loymar shemachar masha loy ratzalimkar. Just because you added stuff, it doesn't hurt me, even if whether it's a shtus or not. For whatever reason why I wanted to say it, avada, it's not a giloy that I'm willing to sell you all the other sodas. V'ikadamri. When a person says chutz mechetzi charav pleni, the Amri has a different sprach that they agree avad it's pasha in a scenario we say all the sadas, sada A I'm not selling, there's no shaila avad all the other sadas are not sold. What happens once you start mentioning the tree? Chetzi. Now we're saying, no, you already mentioned it. Why are you mentioning chetzi? You should have mentioned the whole thing. And then we have a shaila chutz mechetzi charav pleni, chutz mechetzi sada pleni mao. Do it. So, according to Ikadami Vadil Kani, it's not a tzad. Hamash Shari, but Isa Charav Kani, this is the Shayr. I don't Afilu Ma, Shishayr, Bais Charav Nami Loikani. And then the more answers, Amalei Maisa Loikani, same kasha. Esvei, the Bais just has a chetzi. Chutz Mechetzi Charav Pleni, Chutz Mechetzi Sadin Pleni, Shach Ruven Loikana. My love, Shach Ruven of the Loikana, Ma Shashir, Bais Charav is Kana. Amalei, I feel my shayr by Secharav now. Let me like Kana. And again, Tate, let's bring the right deal. Amalei, Sadei Mechurla, Chutz Mechetzi Sadei Plenia. Who do like Kana? Idach Kana, Badanat El Lekani, Hachinami Lekani. Very, very similar. Just the Ikadamri is going on the Chetzi. To him was the Dava Pasha. According to the Ikadamri, that a full is not going to be sold. There was never a shayl. Now we're going to start really a Gemara, more of a sugyas of other sugyas. We learned this earlier, Mafkid Sechaver Be'edim, regarding returning everything Be'edim. Rashbam says, the reason why we're going to go through the sugyas, if you realize the first lines of the Amud of Einam and Aleph was the Dayani Gaila, which is Shmuel V'Karna. Since we mentioned Shmuel V'Karna, we're going to go through another sugyas of Dayani Gaila. We're going to see Dayani Tzal, Dayani Gaila, very Geshmak sugyas. Let's jump right into it. Boi minei Rav Amram Rav Chizda. Ha-mafkid etzel chaveiroi b'shtar, v'amar loi hechzartim l'cham ma'u. What's the shayla? Person gives, Reuben gives Shimon a star. Now we all know there's Rashbam's Masbis very well. A machzit tzochavei beidim, ein etzarich lefar beidim. He easily could have given it back. So what's the shayla of a zeinach zartim? Why would he? Pashut? It should be nema, and that there's a problem. There's a problem. There's a race. So why you have a concept of shtarcha biyadi my boy? What is my star? I have the receipt in my hands. They owe me the money. Why is it in my hands? A person, when you wanted the money, when you were willing to pay me back, you should have easily demanded for that receipt. Now, what's our shayla in the Gemara? Charetz Pash, you shouldn't believe. On that, we have a migu. What's the migu? The migu is I can easily say nanas. Nanas, I am believed. In such a case of pikadon, I would be believed. And there's no taina of shtarcha biyadi my boy. So we have a shayla. Person has a migu on one side. Other side is lamaisa. There's a taina of shtarcha biyadi my boy. Which one overrides it? So let's jump right into it. What do we say? I mean a migu di boy amar nansu mehemen. If he would have said nanas, he easily would have believed. He would have been believed. There's no taina back. So hashtanam mehemen. I don't know. Matzi amalei shtarcha biyadi my boy lamaisa. Have a taina on you. Why do I have the star in my hands? Amalei mehemen lamaisa is believed. Well, how do you understand this taina? Amalei shtarcha biyadi my boy. Amalei v'tamech v'chi amalei nansi mi matzi amalei shtarcha biyadi my boy. What's this taina back? The taina back is as follows. Very, very geshmak on the kuda we're trying to bring out. Reuven and Shimon. Reuven comes over to Shimon and says, "Can you please pay me back?" So Shimon says, "Sure, I'll pay you back." Now, so he asks for his star back. Reuven starts giving to Rutzen. So, Zok Shimon to Reuven, I know I'm willing to pay you back now, even though I'm not going to get the star. You know why? Because I know that if you decide to play shtick around, if you decide to play games, I can also play games. I can say what? I can say nanas, I'll be believed. So Mamela, I'm willing to give you now the money back. I know I'm Neman with the Migu. Therefore, Zakta Gemara, Gufa that loses the whole time. Why? Because a person's willing to give it back because of a migu. It's more of a catch-22. Since there's a migu, I can easily say, nanas, I'm not afraid to give back the money without getting the star. Once you're not afraid to give back the money without getting the star, there is no taina. Very, very geschmack. The back and forth. Amalei lamaisa one einam and Bais. Saif. What happened to Shvua? Ki amalei nensu la Shvua bai. We all know you would have to be in to make a Shvua. So how can you tell me it's a very easy migu? On that, the Gemara answers in Echanami. My nemon. My nemon takavad. You have to make a shua. Regarding the shua, is no shayla. Leimo b'pelukta. The Rashash takes out the hani tanoi the tani. They're bringing them from the Tzion. It doesn't really make sense. We're trying to say machlekes tanaim is based on a Moran. They take it out. Leim pelukta shtarkis. It's coming from a taisis. They bring down taisis and ksubitz out of the Beis. Okay. Zok Demar Leima Belukto when Einam and Beis top of them and Starkis Hayoitse Alay Yisayim. So what is a Starkis? Let's give a little background. We really explained this heavily in Bam Mitzia, which is a regular investment. It's a regular partnership. Every partnership has 50% equity, 50% sweat. However, these days might work a little different. But in those days, when a person invested $100, whatever the money, $50 was more of alva. That means to say is, no matter what happens, even if the company went bankrupt, whatever happens, you're backing up 50%. The other 50% is more of a pikadon, and that's why it's worth it for me to invest in you. Vadalinian ribis, we learned about Mitzia. If you look even in a shtariska today, you got paid $1 as a management fee regarding to solve ribis. But that's the concept. Every investment is a half alva because you automatically have to pay that back, and the other half is a pikadon. So with that understanding, what happened is over here is that a person goes over the assignment with the star saying he invested $100. So again, 50% of his alva, 50% is zakadon. Now the assignment is saying maybe the tata paid back. So star kiss a yaitzel assignment. So we have a machlekes. Dayoine gaila, Amri, Nishba the goy v'kula. Shmuel and Kana, which is Dayoine gaila, we saw on top of the Amin, Ayin, Amin, Alf. They hold that the person's good enough, this person, to make a shvua, and he gets 100% of the investment back. However, the Yehuda Yisrael, which is Rav Ami and Rav Asi, they say no. Nishba v'goy v'mechza. Only half you're able to get back. Now, Zoktamar v'kula alma islu than ardoi, which I explained. The Ami ardoi, high iska, every ishtar asik is really palga milva, because you have to pay it back, or palga pikad. So now, the Gemara is understanding, this is the machlekes of Eretz Yisrael and ardoi and Bavel. My lab, halkamifli. The Mar Savar, the Yaina Gaila hold that what? Matsi Amalei has a tiny back. Shtarcha biyadi my boy. Regarding half the money, he's able to taina shtarcha biyadi my boy, and therefore he can't get it back. Umar Savar loy. He doesn't have the taina. That's why it's nishba vegoy vekuloi. And that's like the Mara, no. Amri loy. The kula alma isla of chizda. Everyone avad holds of shitas of chizda. So what's the machlekes of chetzi or 100? Why could he be goy v'kula, goy v'mechzav? Ha'chabal kumifli. The marsav, the yaini goy gonna hold. Imisa the pari. If you taka have paid back the money, meva hava amar, he would have told his kids. So since the kids are not talking, memelo, we say he didn't pay back. Amar sava the yainer tzol emar malachu malves sudanse. He died. Zokter Shban v'loy hispik litzavos. I actually said, when I gave the shir Daf Yomi, I said, l'chayr, it sounds like from the Shban v'loy hispik litzavos. What happens? A person's getting, he's very sick. Doctors give him a few weeks to live. Or a person knows he's getting very old. Do we say malach hamavis? I thought from the Shban very clearly. Comes out that if a person had plenty of time to say, then Avada we don't say they're going to be maideh that he's going to be goy v'kula. Maisa, someone told me, the Ritva says otherwise. The Ritva says, even in a case where you had plenty of time, a person always fools himself. He says, I have plenty of time, I'll tell them later. Malach hamavis is always going to get them. Very interesting. Okay, very good shmak. Shalach Rav Huna by Ravin Hamafked Atzel Chaver B'Shtar Amaloi Hechzartu L'cha Neman. So we just saw, okay, it's Neman. However, Shtar Kisa Yetzel Saimim Nishba V'Goyva what not Mechza Kulei. So Gemara Tarti, that doesn't add up. If he's Neman to say How could he be goyve kulei? And then the Gemara says, no, Shani Asam, again, just showing us this point. The Misa the Pare, Meima, Hava Amar, he would have said it. Very gishmak. Rav Amar, Hilchas Salamaisa, the halacha is Nishba v'goyve mechsa. The halacha is he gets half. Amar Zutra, Hilchas Sakatayoine goyla, which is kulei. And that the Gemara asks, Amar Levina Mazutra, Vector Mazutra, Hamarav Nishba v'goyve mechsa, which is Gadayoine Eretz Yisrael. How can you tell me Mazutra halacha is Gadayoine goyla? Amalei, no, I learned differently. I know the Dayani Gaila Ifcha Masnisin law. I learned that what? The Dayani Gaila are the ones who are going to hold Nishba B'Goyim Mechza, which is basically Shitas Rava. So Memela, it's not a stira what Mazutra said. Very geshmak when Ayin Aleph, Amad Aleph, the top of the Amad by the Mishnah. Lo Yesabor, Velo Yesagas, Velo Yesashoivach, Bain Chareven, Bain Yeshuvin. We're talking about a person sells a soda. He doesn't. We saw this Ayin Aleph, this sugya, very complicated sugya of Meicher Bain Yafe, Meicher Bain Ro. We saw this in Samach Dalet on Beis very extensively, where you came out taka the Makar for Rabbi Kiva Rabban is going to be from the Sefer of our Mishnah. We said it's basically the whole Samach Dalet on Beis. The Mishnah of Samach Dal, Reish V'Sefer, and the Mishnah over here of Reish V'Sefer. So let's go into it. Lo Yesabar, V'lo Yesagas, V'lo Yesashoivach, Bain Chareven, Bain Yeshuvin. Doesn't make a difference if it's Chareven Yeshuvin, it's not sold. V'tzorech likach loy derech, Devir Rabbi Kiva. Again, Shitas Rabbi Kiva, Meicher, Ba'ayin Yafeh Meicher. V'chachamim Aimrim, Ein Tzorech. However, Zok Mar, Zok Mishnah, Meider Rabbi Kiva, V'zman Shamaloi, Chutz Me'elu, She'ein, Oy Tzorech, Likach loy derech. Avada when he says that. Machran lacha, this is the sefer. What happens when he sells everything, but he's meshayir? Machran lacha, Rekiva Aimer, Einoi tzarech likach loy derech. This is the sefer. Taka with the rayo. Shitas Rekiva Rabbanan. V'chachamim Aimer tzarech likach loy derech. Taka the machlokes of meicher bain yafer, meicher bain ro. B'ma dvar mamurim is b'meicher. Ava b'noisin matana. Noisin is cooler. Regarding a matana, a person's much more lenient. Once it's not business. Businesses, you see a person has to sell. He's very tough about it. Mashenkin, once it comes to matana, a person's very generous. Ha'achin shel chalku zochu b'sadeh zochu b'kula. The halacha is brothers that split up. The halacha is they're zeichin each other. We go more ba'ayin yafen. The Lashon Taisus is l'hachalav mishum ayin yafu. El mishum de roitzin listal le'gzem. It's a two-way street. I'll take care of everything. You take care of everything. We each get everything like that. We able to separate and part ways completely. Okay. Hamachzik benichse ager. Hichzik besade hichzik bekula, like we already explained regarding ager, which is nichse hefker. Everybody else has yorship. The halach is once you're machzik on one thing, you're machzik even on everything, which is the bar, the gas, and the shayvach. Okay. Hamakdish es asade. Hegdish is kula. Very clear. Shitas Tanakama is regarding Hegdish and Magdish everything. Shimon Aimer, Hamagdish is Hasadeh, Loi Hegdish, Elo is Charav, Hamurkov, Esadan, and Shikma. We're going to see this very extensively. Our Shimon's really not going to be so simple that it's dafka these two. Maybe he holds everything and it's only going, he's talking Terabanan saying this halacha. We're going to see this very extensively in the Gemara, this last Nakuda of Shitas, Reb Shimon. It's going to go more or less all the way till the end of the parak. Zok the Gemara, Maishna Mecher, Maishna Matana. Frekta Gemara, Zok, and with the Rishbam is Masber. Avad did I can understand that a person, when he gives a Matana, he gives a Bayin Yafa, I'll swallow that, Zok the Rishbam. But I don't understand is, how can you make it so pashut, so black and white, that I have no choice but to give you everything in a scenario where I didn't talk? On that, the Gemara says, Pirish Yehuda ben Akusa l'fnei Rebbe. Zeh Pirish by Matani was mefarish. Meshenkin b'mecher. Zeh loy Pirish by Mecher he wasn't mefarish. Correct the Gemara. Hi Zeh Pirish. V'zeh loy Pirish. You want to be mechak the Mishnah in a case where the difference between Mecher and Matana is when a person's mefarish. Zeh loy Pirish. V'zeh loy Pirishu. Our Mishnah is either talking about the Mecher Matana, either they didn't explain the difference, they didn't mefarish themselves, or they did. Why we be mechalek? Where do we see in the Mishnah be mechalek a Mecher versus a Matana? And that the Gemara explains as Elo Zeh Hoyalei lefarish v'Zeh Loy lefarish. Rishbam brings two fascinating mahalachim. And what does it mean that a matana should not be mefarish? Meshenkin and mecher. So Zok Rishbam regarding a matana, since a person gives a ba'ayin yafa, so he doesn't need a mefarish, he gives it no problem. Meshenkin and mecher, a mecher again. Why are you selling the mecher? You have no choice because you need the money. So there, a person only sells exactly what he writes it. That's what Mahalach he brings down. Then he brings down Rabbeinu Chananel, which is very geschmack of Mahalach is, that when a person gets a matana, he's embarrassed. He's not going to speak up. He's not going to talk. Whatever you give me, you give me. That's what it means. When you're buying something, you stand up for yourself. You make sure I want to know exactly what I'm getting for what I pay for. I happen to the Rabbeinu Chananel's Mahalach today, we very feel that a person, when he gets a matana, he stays quiet. That's what it means. Zok Gemara, Ahu Damalahu, person tells, talking about the Shchimra, person dying, whatever the case is. Ahu Damalu, a person says as follows: Ahu Damalu Havli Leplanya Besa. Go give this person my house the Machzik Meya Gulfitz. It has room to hold up 100 barrels, 10 by 10. Ishtakach Lamaisa, they find out the house has what? They have a Machzik Meya Vesra. The house doesn't hold 100 barrels, 120. So how much? He only gets 5/6 of a house. If it's 100, not 120. Me'ah ve'esrin lo yamalei. Rav Ashi Amar, no. Rav Ashi Amar, mi lo t'nan. Didn't we learn b'mad v'amar murim b'moicher? Ava b'noisim matana. Noisin is kula. Ama manda yav matana ba'ayin yafe. Yoich and manda yoiv matana ba'ayin yafe kulei. Avade, I wanted to give you 120. Dr. Shbam. Kala Bais kula. V'haida ha'ka'amar. What he said, machzik meya gufi savaya. He thought, I know can at least hold 100. So it's very normal for me to say that house that has 100. If it has 120, no problem, take it. You don't want to overpromise the person who thinks you get more of a matana and be upset. Very common, no problem. Zok the Gemara. We're going to start Reb Shimon. Hamagdish es asada. We're going to start with Shitas Tanakamo. Someone who's magdish es asada. The halacha is maghigdish es kula. Amar Rav Huna. We're starting with Shitas Rav Huna. The Amar Rabbana. Akoine shnei ilonois betoich shel chaveiroi harei zeh lo yikona karka. Sounds like Rav Huna is going to say if a person buys just 2 ilonos, not 3, the halacha is he's not going to karka. However, 3, already we all know, once he's kind of sada, and once he's kind of gimel ilonos, has a din of a sada, then he's going to be kind of all the place around it, and if it dies, the trees die, you can replant them. However, 2 not. Malcha karka. This is the case of the ratio. Nafka 2, but 3 he's not going to get again. Mesu, he's not going to be able to replant it, and he's not going to get the karka around it. Malcha karka. What happens? He sells the entire field, but he left over for himself. Vishayer shnei ilonis lefanav yesh lo karka. There he has karka. So l'chayra, we clearly see when a person sells it, then meicher kilu harei zeh lo yikona karka. Meicher ba'ayin ra. But malcha karka yesh lefanav karka. And that's like tomorrow. Vafilu leRebbe Kiva, even Rebbe Kiva that holds that what? Meicher ba'ayin yafe is going to be maida in such a case where you sell your kaka and you leave over 2 trees to yourself. You still get kaka. Meicher ba'ayin yafe. And that's like the Mara. Afilu Rebbe Kiva dama meicher ba'ayin yafe meicher. That's hani mili. Where do we find meicher ba'ayin yafe? Gabe bar vidus. Dafka we can understand by a bar vidus. Why? The loy kamachshi ba'ara. It's not ruining the land around it. Avali lanois the kamachshi ba'ara. Zok the Gemara in Aleph and Beis. And Isa the loy shayer. If you're gonna not leave karka for yourself, you know what we're worried about? We saw this already early when we learned the sugyas. Lei malei akari lancha shkol v'ziv. So dafka by a bar v'dos person, there's no hezek to the lekeyach. Lamaisa, since not ruining the karka, he's not worried about it. However, Mashenkein Ba'ilonois, he knows that if he's not careful and he protects himself with the karka, what's going to happen is he's going to eventually kick him out. And Zokter Shbam Vanat Sadi Deladas Kain Ikev Es Ailonis. Okay, very good shmak. This is Atkan Rav Huna. So wherever Rav Huna very clearly wants to say Rav Huna is going to be going even like Rebbe Kiva. Now we have a Mishnah Tanan. Reb Shimon Oimer. Reb Shimon says, Hamagdish es asade loy higdish elachar v'murkav asade neshukma, which is our Mishnah, practically the same in the Mishnah. Reb Shimon clearly sells when a person's magdish the entire sada, he's magdish. He's in a way it's ayin ra. He doesn't get everything else, but however the char v'murkav he's going to get. Zok the Gemara v'tani Allah Amr Reb Shimon matam. What's takap shat? The charav and the sadan is more than everything else. Zok the Gemara hayil. Ve'yankin mistay hegdish. The reason is because the dafka charav v'murkav, and that is yainik. Mesha'im kain. Everything else Avada is not going to be sold. Visa gedaitich, frek more. This is the point. Visa gedaitich shiur shayer ki koyanki midanavshe koyanki. That the Gemara says this is not. I mean, if you're going to tell me that what Dafka the Chorva Murkov and the Southern Ashikma, the whole Nakuda is if he's leaving it over for himself, if he's the Karka itself, Avada is not going to be sold. And that's so Mela Zuk the Gemara. We have a problem. What's the problem? It comes out over here very clearly that a Rai over here we see by this scenario that a person, when he's not Mishai the Karka himself. And that the Gemara says, no, Reb Shimon the Amar Kerbekiva. The Rav Huna, the Amri, Kirabon. And it comes out of Shimon, it's taka going like Rabbi Kiva. That what? Meicher ba'ayin yofer. Rav Huna, however, that he's leaving over the karka is going like Rabbanon. Frek Gemara, Kirabon. It's pshita that a person sells the karka for himself. So Gemara, no. You know what the nafkamina is? Nafkamine, the e nafli hadashaslu. The chiddush is, and Rav Huna is coming to tell us that if the Ilana is full, you can still replant it. That what the Avada we saw earlier, that Avada can replant it, but this itself is what Rav Huna is coming to tell us. In such a case, Dr. Shbam, Umikara Nami Havi Adinon. The Rav Huna comes to tell me the Nafal Hadashasulu. And that we're saying this Hagufa itself is the Chiddush of Rav Huna. Dr. Mara, Ayin Beis Amar Alf, Umi Matzis, Mukmis Law, Rav Shimon Kerekiva. Can you really say Reb Shimon is going like Reb Akiva, Vatanya, Hegdish Laishi Lonis. Mimata Asar Lebeisa. If a person, the halacha is, Hare Hegdish is Hakarka, Vesilonish Ebenein, Lefikach Shu Paide Beis, Zera, Chaimer, Sa'ir, Mechamishim Shekel Kesef. That means to say as follows. A person's Magdish Gimel Ilonis, in the measurement, we really learned this in the Suggis earlier of Chavav over there. When a person's Magdish Gimel Ilonis, enough 2,500 Amas, tents, it's really 250. The halach is he's magdish the karka and all the trees. Therefore, when he's paid it, he only has to pay what? He only has to pay 50 shekels, a flat rate. Again, the Yovel, we go through the measurements. It's really 1 and 1/48, the Gemara 1/49. We're not going to get complicated exactly what the shear is. But the concept is he doesn't have to pay the full value. Rather, all he has to pay is the 50. So, Gemara, Pachas mikan a yoser al kain oi. Which means to say is, if it's more dense or less dense that the karka is not going to be sold with these ilanois, then the halacha is, once he paid it, he has to pay full value. It doesn't have the halachas of, which is really the halachas of stay achuza. Okay. Even a scenario where you're magdish the trees, and then afterwards you went and you're magdish the karka kashu paide silonis bishavyen, which is the kash. We're going to see this. You don't have to pay full value. V'chayzeru paide be'zera chaymes ayrim. How much? Bechamishim shekel kesef. So for more now, money. Who is this going like this? This brisa. We're trying to figure out this very clear. We have a brisa over here that says that what? When you're mechalik the two, then if a person's magdish the ilonis, then the karka, even though later on it's all hektish, you have to pay twice. You have to pay full value if ilonis, then the karka you can only have to pay 50. Mani, Rebbe Kiva, that doesn't add up. Ha'amar meicher ba'ayin yafe meicher v'kol shekein magdish. If you're going like Rebbe Kiva, how does that add up? L'chayra, he holds everything hektish is ayin yafe. If so, you shouldn't have to pay. Rabbanan amri meichuhu the ba'ayin ra meicher have a magdish ba'ayin yafe magdish. Rabbanan is also maskim to shitas Rebbe Kiva. Elamai, we don't have Rebbe Kiva and we don't have Rabbanan. Who we left off with? El pshita, this price is Reb Shimoni. So again, now Reb Shimon leaving the man. He was a Talmud Reb Kiva, but maybe he learned was going to the other people. So Shimon, I'll leave the man. What? This Reb Shimon shit over here is that if a person's not, he's the one who makes sense in our Mishnah. That what? Machar es. In the case of Magdish is a sada, loy higdish, el charva murkav is sada nashikma. So we see that concept of what? If a person is Magdish, ba'ayin, kilo Magdish ba'ayin ra. And that's what we're trying to bring out. How do you understand? Who could this be going like in this case, where you have to pay twice, l'chayra is a case of ayin ra. So Zaktamar, who is Reb Shimon going on? Reb Shimon, I'll leave it the man. I'll leave it there with Kiva, I'm meiche ba'ayin yafa meiche, v'kol shekein Magdish. Ella pshita, I'll leave it there, Bunny. You have no choice but to go like Shita's Rabbanan. Because Savar Reb Shimon, ki hechi de meicher ba'ayin ra meicher Magdish. Nami mayin bay of frek tomorrow because Sav Reb Shimon kehechin the meicher bayin ra meicher magdish. Nami bayin ra magdish. So l'chara, which is basically the kasha is, we have shitas Rav Huna. Rav Huna is very clear. We saw earlier shitas Rav Huna in ayin aleph omed aleph. Rav Huna says that in a case of macha karka vishnei visha'a vishir shnei ilonis lefonav has a karka. Over here, what are we telling us? Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is going to hold by magdish. He's going buying also buying raw. So the Chaim reflecting Gemara, Elamai, you can't tell us that what Reb Shimon's going like Liba. What did we try saying on Ayin Aleph on the Beis? Reb Shimon's going like Reb Akiva. That can't be. We clearly see that Reb Shimon's going like what? Like Rabbanon of Magdish, Nami Ba'ayin Ra Magdish. And that the Gemara says no. We have a different problem. Why are you coming on to what? Shitas Rav Huna. And Shitas Reb Shimon can be going like Reb Akiva. I have a different issue. You're trying to tell me what? You're trying to tell me Magdish buying Ram Magdish. If that's really true, we just saw clearly earlier in Reb Shimon, which is the Mishnah, HaMagdish es Hasada. You weren't Magdish to Char v'Shikma. And the reason why you weren't Magdish to Char v'Shikma, Hoyel v'yankim is hektish. Regech. How do you understand it? L'chayr, according to Shitas Rabbanim, which is HaMagdish, Ba'ayin Ra Magdish, L'chayr is not Mishayer, the Karka Lefana, and if so, the Chayr V'Merkov, you can't tell me he's Yoinik Mistei Hektish. And that's Dr. Gemara, very fascinating. Shitas Reb Shimon, Avad is going to behold that everything is not sold. Why? Because HaMagdish Ba'ayin Ra Magdish. So what's our Mishnah saying? Chayr V'Merkov, in Sadan HaShikma, Eller Reb Shimon Zok Tomorrow. Eller Reb Shimon Le'Devrayim Derabanan Kamerlu. Reb Shimon's talking to Shitas Rabbanan. He's saying this like Le'Didi Ki Hechi De Meicher Ra Meicher Magdish Nami Bayin Ra Magdish Avishiyur Mishayer. According to me, I understand that a person sells Meicher Bayin Ra Hud and Hegdish. So I have no shayla. Everything by me is not sold. So what's the shayla? Le'Ditchu. According to you, Rabbanan, Oidile Mias Deloy Higdish. So let's try to give a little explanation, a little more context to what Reb Shimon's telling Rabbanan. We have over here, we all know Shitas Reb Akiva Meicher Ba'ayin Yafa. Shitas Reb Akiva is when a person sells, for example, Macher's Sada, you sell the bar, you don't need to buy, let's say you don't need to buy a derech. Why? Because a derech is Meicher Ba'ayin Yafa. He said it's part of the chelik of what I'm selling. We'll call it the primary. It's part of the chelik, no problem, I'll sell it to you. That is regarding Mechira. Regarding a matana, it's much more extensive. When a person sells, which we're trying to say is, when a person gives a matana, he gives a kula. It's much starker than ayin yafa. Why? What's the chiluk? Mechira ayin yafa and matana ayin yafa. Mechira ayin yafa, it's only when it's negeya to the sadeh, to the primary, you throw it in the package. Meshenki matana, you'll throw stuff that could even be barvados. On that, with that understanding, frekt, Reb Shimon l'Rabbanan, Maidele mi asked that what? You should be Maidele that Dafka, the Charav HaMurkav, and Sadan HaShikma should be Magdish. You know why? Because Charav HaMurkav, Hayil v'yankin from what? From stay hektish. So since the Yainim makes stay hektish, it should be Allah of what? Of Mechira. It's a chelik of the Sadeh. So on that fact of Shimon, be Maidele mi the Charav HaMurkav, that should be sold. Because that's Ayin Yafa. But everything else that's not a chelik Sadeh shouldn't be sold. It shouldn't have a din of matana. And that Rabbanan answer, Amil Rabbanan, Loishna, it has a din of matana. It's considered a matana and everything itself will be sold. Very gishmak. So for Ekdamar, B'mai, came to look at Shimon. How are you going to tell me it's going like Reb Shimon? Aim a sefer. Now we're going to go through a whole sugya. Opinion, let's go through it. Aim a sefer, v'loy del fi hu higdish. We have to say what it says. Higdish es elonis. V'chaz of a higdish es a karka. Keshu paide l'si elonis b'shavyen. V'chayzu paide be'zera choy mesarim mechamishim shekel kesef. Again, stay achuz is I have to pay a flat rate fee of 50. I don't have to pay more than that. I don't have to pay the full shavius. So in the scenario of the sefer, hamagdish to ilonis, and then I go and magdish to karka in a separate time. I have to pay. I have to pay for the ilonis, even though it's hektish today. I have to pay for the ilonis full value. Zok the Maravir, Reb Shimon, Lezel, Bas opinion. V'nifriku agav erayu. The problem is, if you're going to tell me it's Reb Shimon, we're going to see in a second, we're going to try to bring a raya. The Reb Shimon holds you go bas opinion, basa today. Today, we have a karka, we have a lonis. Today, everything opinion. If we're going bas opinion, everything has halachas de'achuza. If everything has halachas de'achuza, why in the world am I paying for me lonis full value? Reb Shimon lays a bas opinion, v'nifriku agav erayu. Why? Dashamina le Reb Shimon, the also bas opinion. We know Shitas Reb Shimon is. He goes bas opinion de Tanya. Minayin the lokeach Sodem me'ove v'gdisha v'achar kach meis ove minayin shetelefonov kistei achuza. Zok Shimon is following. We have a Bais. A person who buys a soda from his father today, and he's makdish it, and then the father dies. So, Tam Yerusha, which is today, we're going to say has a halacha of sdei achuza. How do you know it has a halacha of sdei achuza? And the halacha is all you have to pay is regular pidyon and not full shavyos. You know why? We have an extra drush, extra yisra of what? Asher loy mistei achuzasai. What's the extra yisra coming to tell us? Sadeh she'ein ru'uya liyoi stei achuza. Dafka sadeh, it's not roi. Mashenka, in this case, where you bought it, and you're makdish it, now your father died, you yarish it, is roi. Yatzazu she'ru'ya liyoi stei achuza. This is who? They were Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon. That's kind of sheet, that's Reb Shimon. So you clearly see, Reb Shimon is going to hold such a case. What's Reb Meir going to hold? Reb Meir, I may know. Minayin le'lokeach sadeh me'avid. Someone who buys a sadeh from his father. Umeis avid. So he wasn't makdish yet. His father dies, and now he's makdish. V'achach higdish. Minayin she'telefona k'zdei achuzah. Tamid loy. Here Reb Meir learns the same pasuk. Ve'im estei miknasei asher loy mistei achuzah. So to tell you sadeh she'ein a sadeh achuzah. But yatzazu. Yatzisa, Zu, she's Dechuza. Today, the Monsey, you were Yerush it before the Yovel. So in such a case, or Meir, which is Be'etzem, going much less of a Chiddush, Dafka in a case where he dies and then Makdish it, Mashenka and Yehuda and Shimon is talking about a case where you Makdish it, Ve'achakach Meir, so it's only Ro'i. So a Meir, which is not going such a Bechiddush, that is Shittas Meir. So, Frektimar, Ve'ilu, Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, Heicha the Meis Aviv, Ve'achakach Hegdisha, Light Tzrichikra. According to Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, you have to say, it was a davar pasha to them. In a scenario where you're makdish it after the misa, it's pasha that it's good. Ki itzich kra, dafka where you're makdish it, and wishas hegdish, l'chayr it's not stei achuza. Dafka then, ki itzich kra hechad digdisha v'achakach meis aviv, so frekti mara bam kasha. Mina luhu, ima hay kra, if you're coming from the extra pasuk, ema lechadar meru da asa. So the Shbam is masber. Why should you go like a mayor? Because we all know that Zokter Shbam, elahu de dami tfeiler rebuye. You have a choice. Reb Meir is the one who's much less of a chiddush. He holds dafka meis v'achakach chiddush. So b'shas your magdish it was ready as te'achusa. In such a case, that's the pasuk. Mashen Cain, sorry. Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon want to say even a bigger chiddush. Even when you were magdish it, b'shas hekdish, it wasn't te'achusa. As long as it was later when the tata was nifter, now it's te'achusa, it works. Frektimar, how could you do that? Maybe the pasuk's only going like Reb Meir. So how do we know? How could Reb Yehuda? Basically, the question is, how could Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon go so extreme? The pasuk, Elachal Yosem Mechidusha Reb Meir, and that Elamai, the Gemara's understanding. Elamai, the answer is La Mishum the Azli Basra Pidyon, which is the bomb raya. This is why we brought this whole concept of the Sefer. You clearly see Shitas Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon that hold that what? That in a scenario a person's hegdish, achkach mesa works, elamai, you have no choice but to say what? But to say that it was a davar pasha to Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, that what? You go basa pidyon. So the pasuk's not coming to tell you pidyon. That, memela, which is basically shitas Reb Meir, hegdish, achkach mes, it was a davar pasha, go basa pidyon. Memela, you don't have to understand that the pasuk's only coming in the shitas Reb Meir. And that the Gemara says no. Then we're back to the square one, which is the kasha. How could you see from the pasuk a scenario of higdish v'achakach meis? You know what the answer is? V'hachakra ashkechu v'darish. Why? David Tak, we're learning from the pasuk to tell me this. Why? Because im kain lichte kra ve'im misteh meknasei asher loy chuzasei. Don't say the word misteh or inam misteh chuzasei. What's the pasuk coming to tell me? My asher loy misteh chuzasei. They learned the extra drasha to tell you. Don't just learn shitas from Meir, which is a davar pashat of meis v'achakach higdish. Who did higdish v'achakach meis? The taka learning from the pasuk. Scheiner really is dechuza. Yatzazu she really is dechuza. In Achnami it's more of a chiddush. And without the extra drasha, you would not be able to say this extra chiddush. So about this coming out from the extra drasha, and therefore what? There's no riot to say that Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, Stamazai would go basar pidyon. Amar Avuna, we're going to go weiter. This is very, very heavy sugyas. This whole sugya of ayin amad aleph, all the way basically till the end of the parak. But again, like we mentioned, it's really a review. Someone really has to do these dapim, each on his own, for plenty of time to really have a full understanding of the back and forth shakla v'tarya. Zok the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna. Charav hamurka v'sadan hashikma has the halach of Elon, has the halach of karka. Taurus Elon of a Taurus karka love. What's it mean? Taurus Elon alav the hechadig the agdish oizavin shnei lanis. Ha-zavin shnei ilanis. There's halacha. Let's say, for example, we all know when a person sells 2 ilanis, he doesn't get karka. What happens when he sells ilanis? He gets the sod, then he gets the karka, and he gets everything. The shaila is what happens when I sell you 2 ilanis and a charav murkav. And that we're saying it has a chiddush of an ilan that who is considered gimel ilanis. V'hayesh lekarka. Taurus karka love that what the loim is davin agav ara. It's not sold agav. V'amravuna. Another concept regarding shikha oimer. The sheep sheish b'sasayim has a loch of oimer and has a loch of gadash. Taurus amar love, but Taurus gadash love. Taurus oimer love. The shnei sharm we all know has a loch of shikha. Shnayim v'hu. But once it has another one 3, it doesn't have a loch of ein shikha. This oimer is considered more of oimer. But Taurus gadash love the tnan oimer sheish b'sasayim. Shachru, if you forget it, ain't shikha. Amar Rabba Barav Chana Amar Ishlakish. Chorav hamurkav, v'sadan hashikma, bonu lemachloikis Reb Menachem berab Yaisi v'Rabbanon. Basically, Reb Menachem berab Yaisi is going to be saying Shitas Reb Shimon. That what? Hamoicher es a magdish. So someone who's magdish his karka, he's magdish everything, not just charav and mukar and southern shikma. Rather, he's makdish everything, which is machlekes Reb Menachem Reb Yaisi. Also makdish ba'ayin raw makdish. And not only that, we don't say the charav is yoinik from stay hegdish. Why do you say simple? We all know Reb Shimon, we just came out based on the Bais, Reb Shimon is really arguing a Rabbanon. Reb Shimon's talking to Rabbanon. You should be Maida Miyas that should have a din of Mechanana Matana. And that Rabbanon said, Lashna is a din of Matana. For Gemara, just say simple. Say the Machlekes Reb Shimon Rabbanon. And that's like the Gemara. Kamash Malon, Reb Menachem Yesik Reb Shimon Srile. Hagufa. Avadi, you'll know that Reb Shimon is arguing Rabbanon like we saw from the Brises, the Stiras. We wanted to mention Reb Menachem Yesik to show us that Reb Shimon has also Reb Menachem Yesik that also hold like Shitas Reb Shimon. And he's not alone in his Shita. Hadran Alach. HaMeiches Abayis Hadran Alach. Okay, we're going to start with HaMeiches Asvina, someone who sells a ship against Stam. The halacha is Machar Satayran, it sells its mass with it, its accessories. Ves Hanes, and the sails, Ves Ha'ugan, and its anchor, Ves Kol HaMenigan Oisai. Everything that takes to, the Gemara is going to explain exactly what it is. Avalai Machar, Loyes Ha'avadim, Veloyes Ha'mertzufin, not the sacks, veloyes antika, or the cargo itself. It was mancha amalahi v'choma shebeseicha hare kula and mechura, and then everything itself is sold. Very geschmack. Tyran, what is a tyran? Iskaria, it's a mass. V'chinu we find the pasuk Erez milavanoin lakachu. They should take the cedar wood from Lebanon, last size tyran lech to make a mast upon. What is a nace? Adra. It's a sail. V'chinu aimer, like we see. Sheish berikma mitzrayim haya mifrasech liya islachol anes. Again, you should embroider this linen from Mitzrayim to spread it upon like a mast, like a sail. Oigin, what says Oigin? Tanim b'chia elu agigin shalah. These are its anchors. V'cheinu aimer regarding Naomi was telling Rus that what the land. Tisaberni, you're gonna wait. Adeshe gadlu land. You're gonna wait till they get old. Agnal vilti liyas lishish. You're gonna stay old forever. So therefore, Zakta Gemara, when we all find the Lashon of Aguna, even Aguna today, what is a Lashon of Aguna? Aguna is trapped. She's anchored. That's mamish the Lashon of Aguna, that she's trapped. Amar Abba, Elu, Manigin, what says Manigin? Amar Abba, Elu, Ameshaitin Shalah, these are its oars. V'cheinu Aimer, Eloinim, these oaks, Mibashan, Asu, Mishatayich, they should make these oars. V'iba say Mahacha, like it says, V'yardu, Menesayim, Kal Taif Semasat, anyone, we're talking about really we're really talking about a person when he's going to lead the ships, all the people that are holding on to the oars. And again, the chiddush is that the Amma, the Ikka Svina, has its oars. Tana Rabbana. Ha-Meicher, Sasvina, Maches, Eskalia, the planks, as Bar Main, Shepasaicha, and the pits of water. Now, so name Maches, Sasvina, Maches, Spitz, it's a rowboat, a little small boat. So, Machasaima, Maches, Sasvina, Maches, Adugis. What says Adugis? Amarava, it's a sign of Dugis. They both mean the same terminology of a rowboat. Nasan, that was from Bavel. He's a native of Bavel. Law Havakar Lebutzis, Kadam Richi, Butsaisam Demiaishon there and over there in those rivers. Bavel over there, wherever it was, they used these little rowboats again because I guess it was shallow water. Some chus the Barit Sroli, some Erzol, Karle Dugis, Loshen Dag, Dichsev, like it says in the pasuk, that the people leave over your generations, the kindlech you leave, they should be carried away with these little small boats. Okay, now we're going to start very fascinating maisim of Rabbah Bar, of all the sugyas of Rabbah. We're going to see there are many sugyas ba'atzem. There are many Achreinim, Rishonim, the Gra, the Marsha, the Rashbam. They all talk about exactly if this is more of a Kabbalah, this is more emes, this is more Mishalim, there was really dreams. It's really learnt on. We're not going to go and explain the Nimshalim when we're going this quickly. Chalapachis, everybody should at least, and even in the art school, they bring down every story, they bring down mostly from the Gayin, Nimshalim, what to learn from every Maisa that we're seeing over here, the Maisas Mamash, all these Maisim. We have a lot of Musar to learn out from. These are all Mishalim. Mostly the Gayin explains it that way. That every Maisa is Kaviyachla Nimshal Toilam Azen, what to learn from the Yitzhahara, Malachim, how we think, etc., etc. But we're going to say these stories on a very basic level. The people that sail on the rivers told me as follows. Hi Gala, they saw this wave, the Mithalasfina. It was about this massive wave, it was about to drown them, the ship. Massive wave, it had a white little fringe on top of this wave. We hit it, we hit it with the stick, Kashem tzvakes, Amin, Amin, Sela. They bring down from here, we see the schos of saying Amin Yehesh Mei Rabba. The guy mentions this, V'nayich, and calm down. Okay, again, these Maisim, there are many explanations how to learn it with all them shalom. Amir Rabba, another Maisim, Shtolim, Nechushi Yayim, Megala, Gala between every weight, Tlas Mei Parsi, 300 parsois. V'rum in the Gala, the height was Tlas Mei Parsi. Zim Nachadav is Lina Ba'orcha, one time I was walking in the streets with the Lina Gala, or in the ocean, the Lina Gala. The Chazina, this wave picked us up. We saw this resting place of the small star. The Haviliya looked like us. Kemivzar, Arboin, Giri, Bizra, the Chardal. It had so big of a space that you were able to put on 40 saws of 40 cores, which is lamitza, 40 cores of dafka mustard seeds, which are very small, massive shur. V'idalina tvei, if we would have gone a little higher, Makalina Mahavli would have got burnt from its heaven. V'ramali, we overheard one wave tell the other wave. Galik kala chaverta. Chaversi, my body, my friend. Shafikas mida ba'amad alei shetasve. You left anything that you didn't destroy, the nesa of an abda, that I could come and destroy it. Amalahei, pai chazi gavorted mahar. Go see the power of the Rebbeinu Shalom. We all know, like we saw this in the beginning of the parak of a Shotvin. Zion, Davches over there with the Rabbana lights Richin and Terusa, Maisim, the Chachamim, regarding the Chol Hayam. Now what? Asher Santi Chul Gvol, like the pasuk says, Shenemar, I see for me, Leiseroi shouldn't fear no Mashem. Emipanai Leisichayli shouldn't tremble before me. Asher Santi Chul Gvol Hayam, Chok Aylam, Velayevren. Very good shmak. Another Maisam Rabbi Lidi Chazali Horman. Horman was a shade. She was the mother of all Shadim. Ki karoit akufa the shur the mechiza. He was traveling along the walls of mechuza. V'roit parsha. We saw this on Daf Zayin Daf Ches. What is a parsha? He's a Scheiner. He goes around to make sure that everything's protected. Ki rachich chiyus. He's going on his animal. Mitase. He's going underneath. V'lo yachilei. What? The shade was running quicker. Shaya shade ruts b'yaser. However, he wasn't. There's Bamas Masbet that this Parish didn't even realize what was going on. He didn't look up. Here we bring down now. It's a sakana to walk at night. Okay. I saw he had, we're talking about this hermit, he had 2 mules full of the saddle. The Kayaman, I trade Gishri, the Raina, it's a place. Shema Sinar, why 9 Gimel Bais. The Shavim Malahim, he's jumping from one to another, one bridge to another live. And Naki trade Mizki the Chamri Biyade. He had 2 bottles of wine, 2 cups of wine. He was able to throw them in the air, and they would both land, mama juggle. Now 1 drop of wine landed on the ground. Don't tell me, it was very quiet, there was no winds. It was mamish, storms going on, that the waves going all into Shemaim. It was a crazy windy day. Not a drop of wine fell on the ground. The Rashbam says they killed him either one. Ma'alach is, because it's not the derech hashay to show his powers, what he could do. Another say that we're talking about Malka Kesar, and he was worried what happened was this shade came from a person that was born a sheda, and he was living between people, and he was nervous going to take over the Malchus, so he killed him. This Hormus. Omar Rav, another Maisa. Ledidi Chazali, Urzula. Urzula is a Ra'im, Ben Yoim Echad, that day he was born, Ben Yabar Yoim. I'm telling you, it's very fascinating. Them showing, they bring down, Efshar Lahazber Kirabimim, but the Marach on this. But the Have Kar Taber was as big as our Taber. Var Taber Kamahava was our Boim Parsa 40, our 4 Parsas, Umashchad, the Savari, Tlasso Parsi, his neck was 3 Parsais, Ubeim Rabas, his resting place, the ratio was Parso Pago. Rama Kufta, Lamaisa, got upset, he let out Soya Vesachli, Darna plugged off the Yardin, but then it cleaned it up. Vamirabba Chana Di Chazalehu, our Kurskut's a frog, Daviki Akra, who's the size of Akta Regniv, Agnuna Kamahava, Shitim Bitu, 60 houses big, this frog. Also, Tanina came, the sea monster, Bola swallowed it. Also, Pishkus went out to Erev, Nekeva, female raven. Bola swallowed Tanina, but Solik and Yosef Ilana went onto a branch of a tree. So Chazi coming off a Shchili Dilana. Imagine how strong this tree could hold up such a bird, such a raven that ate up the sea monster, that ate up the frog, 60 houses big. Amar Papa Shmuli, Lai Have Hasam, Lai Hemni. And again, here they talk about really the schusim, that a person, when he supports Torah, this is really the person, Ki Eitz Chaim Hila Machzikim Bo. This is, the guy talks about this by Riches. Okay. Va'amar, Rabba, Barchan, Zimna Chadav, because Lidim Sivit was going to Sheva Chazina, Hukavara, the Yasvele. I saw this massive fish, the Yasvele Achlatina Bo. So he came in a little share, it's a little warm into his brain. Va'oshe Umeis, and he died. So the Maya, the river pushed him out. The Shadul Lagud and put him on the shore. And the Charav Mine was such a big fish. The Charav Mine Shita Mechuzi was able to destroy 60 cities. The Alchim Mine Shita Mechuzi, another 60 cities were able to eat from it. Umalchim Mine Shita Mechuzi, another 60 cities were able to get, they salted. There was so much fish meat going on. Umalim Echad Galkala, the Eina Tlas Mesa Garvi Mashcha. Wow, you were able to get from one eyeball 300 barrels of wine. What? Oil, sorry. When I came back 12 months later, Chazinon, the Hava, Kam, and Nasri, Megami Talasa, the mom is sewing from their bones, making huts to rebuild their cities. V'yasi, Lemimninuhu, Hanim Chachuzi, and they're resettling and rebuilding all the cities that got destroyed. Another Maisa. I saw this fish. The Yasvele Chalsa had basically sand on its back. The Kadach Agme Love, Rashbam says that already started grass growing on the back. Savrini Abeshte, I thought it was an island. So we got down, we went on this back. There's a clean about Fino Bashlim, we started baking and cooking, making barbecues on it. Agabe on its back. The Kad Changave Sapach, when it got very hot, apparently it flipped. If not for the ship right there, would have drowned. Another Maisa. Zim Safinta was going to ship. There was another ship traveling. This ship was traveling between the fins of a fish, the kavara, basically 72 hours straight. He's going against the wind. We're flying, it's like 2 trains opposite each other. We're flying with the wind. The chitem, you're going to tell me, it was very slow. It wasn't a quick ship. As long as it takes to heat up water, whether it's 10 minutes, Misaga was able to go 60 parsais. It comes out berech. If let's say it would take 10 minutes to boil up water, we're talking about going 900 miles an hour. So again, we're talking about around 65,000 miles. These stuff are not really understandable in realistic numbers. Okay. Even when a person would throw an arrow, it was still going so fast, faster than an arrow. Again, it was going around 900 miles. The fish, yeah. Okay. No, not the fish, the boat, I think. I was understanding the boat was going even here. Okay, sounds, I'm not sure if it was the fish or the boat, because I would think it's more the boat going faster than the arrow. Okay. Or maybe the chiddush is the boat, because the boat is what you want to tell me it's also going fast. Okay. I saw this bird that came out Kurtuli, he had his ankles in the water. However, his head was in the sky. I saw there's no water. We wanted to cool ourselves off. Said, do not go into this. Why? An axe fell from this person. Hashavshni, already 7 years it fell from him. It didn't even get to the ground yet, all the way underneath. I don't think because it was very deep. It was very turbulent water. This bird is like it says, okay, very gishmak. Sadai imad. V'amar Avachana l'maisa. Zib nechad agav kazina b'med bara. Zin the desert v'chazina and hani avazi the shanti g'tfai. They had mamish full of fats. Their feathers were falling off from their fats. Misham nayu. V'konagdi nachul the mishcha mitusai. And there were streams of oil coming out of them. Aminalu, I asked him, Islan b'gachavayu chalkol amadasi. We're going to get an island in the future. We're going to get some of this. So chad the dali gata. One picked up its wing. V'chad the dali atma. One picked up its thigh. Kasik mid Basra. Amali asid in Israel. Lit and listen. Then the Rashbam says because it's hard Chaim that they're suffering for it because they're so fat. We have to wait till Mashiach. Okay. Amar Rabba Simon Kafra that the Chilta was the Tchelis Tarkasei. We're going to see with the story with the scorpion. A Kafra is out to the basket in the windows. Another Maisa. Amar Rabba Chana Zimnachad Vakazinim at the Midbar is going in the Midbar. This Slavi Bahadon we had with us a Hutayo. It's an Arab merchant. Who?
Some say it might be a Navi.
Okay, the Rashbam says it was Seicher Yishmael. Okay. What happened was we had this Tayot. The Avashakal Afra. He would be able to pick up this offer and smell and know where we are. He was able to smell from the mamish, from the offer measurements and knowing how far they are and where they are. So we would ask him, how far are we from the water? Give me some offer. He smells it. 8 parses. How many parses? Tanina, later on, we did it again. Mamish like a GPS. If chisle means to say is they flipped, they tested him. They would give him different sands from earlier, and he would mamish know everything. Amali, so achvilach mesa midbar. Let's go check out the mesa midbar. Azli chasisinu v'damu keman devismi. The mamish they looked still fresh. Mamish yishaychim panim tuvas kashisui yayin. The God know he went 9 down and alf. They were laying back. A fark they laying on their back. That was a kifa. Barche the chaminaya. One of them had his knee bent on their back with the knee. V'ayol tayo tusi barche. And there was a person, a tayo, was able to go underneath his ankle. Kirachi gamli, even with v'zakifa rumche, even with the arrow, v'loi nagabe, the knee was so big that he was able to go underneath with the spear, holding on to the spear. Paski chad the karnet the techelta, the chaminayu. They were wearing tzitzit, and they had tchelis, and I wanted to cut it off. V'loi have mistagel the mice, and the animals weren't moving. So Amar this tayo says, Dilma shakos midim inayu. Ahatre, return it. Maybe you took something. Why? The Gemir, the man, the shakal midim, and anyone touches these mesa midbar, takes anything from them. Loi mistagale, the animals, are not going to move, behemoths. So Azin, the Maisa had to return it to Hadre. Vahad the mistagale, and they were able to move. Ki also created Rabbanan Amali, ay, kol abba. Any Rabbi Khan, which was Abba, Chamori is a donkey. The Chol Bar Chana Sichcha is a shaita. Why? Lemay Hilchasa. Why did you take out this thing about this hachi? Made it to find out Ike Beishama, Ike Beisilol, whether it's Arba or Shleisha, and how many all the measurements of tzitzis. Just go count them. Now we'll know. Amalei Lamaisa. That's what is considered a shaita. Another Maisa Amalei Sa'achmelach. And let's go show you tour the Sinai. Harsin Azle Chazoi the Hadale. Mice when we saw Arsina Arkrava, there were scorpions around it. The Kayama Loki Chamrari Chavos, who was so big, it looked like white donkeys. Shamati Baskol Shemeris Ohili Shenishbati. The Achsha Shenishbati may for Li. Oh, you should have been made from the Gullus. Ki also committed Rabban Amalei again. Kol Abba Chamar Kol Bar Bachana Sixcha. Again, you're shayta Hailach Mufalach. Why weren't you made for? Would have got out of Gullus. No, maybe it was the shua of the mabalu. They didn't want to be made for it. Rabbanan, MK, oili lama. Why is it oili? Amalei, another ma'isa achvelach blui the kayer chazai tree. But he saw 2 cracks of a kamafki kut. The smoke was coming out. It was that hot. So shako gabova the amr. We take this little wool, these little shearings of wool. The shmina b'mai would soak it. So when you want to soak it, if it's so hot, it won't get burnt so quickly. That it's yaseh b'raisha the rumcha. Put it ahead of a spear. Also, we stuck it in these cracks. The chiapik, when we pull it out, it would be fully singed, fully burnt. Amali. Otzis! Haskis v'shama, mai shamat, what do you hear v'shamis? We heard Daf Yomi, Moshe v'tayrasa yemes. V'hein bedoin. Amali, kol talsin yoyim mahadalu gehenim lahacha kebasa v'kalachas. Mamash flipped them like meat in a pot. The mamash going to go every 30 days to go through the cycles. They would say, Moshe emes v'tayrasa emes v'hein bedoin. Another Ma'aseh I'm going to show you Hechet the Nashki Arav Rakia Dadi where the Karka and the Rakia kiss each other. Shakal Lisalai. He went. What happened was he brought himself a basket. Sanachta bekavos the Rakia. He put it on the window. The Metzilin of Beis after he went to daven. After he finished daven, he didn't find it. I asked, Ika Ganavi Yochid is Ganavim. How did I lose my basket? Amalei, no, hi Gilka the Rikiyu the Hada. It's a galga that's chayzer, right? We learned this very in the end of Layachvar, all about that the windows, how the karka, how the world works, how it moves. Not all machar, wait over here, acho mashkachsling and takan. That's what happened. He found. Rabbi Yochanan mishtay zim nechad because Lim Safed was once going on a ship. Chazina who kavari saw this fish. The after the he took out his head out of the ocean. Mamish looked, his eyes looked like two moons. V'nafitz maya. Mitarsi Zimni Kitrei Mivrei the Surah Mamish, and water was coming out of his nose like two rivers of Mivrei the Surah from Surah. Safra Mishdai Zimna Chadav because Lina Safint Safra started saying Maisim. Zimna Chadav because Lina Safint was once going in a ship. Vichazina Hukavar the Afkal Reisha Miyama. His head came out of the ocean. V'Havale Karen, he had horns. V'Chakakale. I know me. Bury your kalash b'yam. I'm the small little guy. Why? V'Avina Tlas Mea Parsi. I'm 300 parses wide long. V'Azlina the Puma of Yasin. I'm going to end up going into the mouth of the Leviathan. Amar V'Ashi Ahu. Iza Diamuhu. This is a sea goat. The Bechisha. The Isla Karni, that what he searches to get food and he has horns. Rabbi Yochanan again starts also saying another Maisim Shtoizim Nechadav because Lina Misafinta was once in a ship. The Chazina, and I saw a Hikar Tilisa, this chest full of Margolias, Toivis, Tavakamik, Mikavi Babonim, Toivis, and Margolias. The Hajilo Mine, the Kavri, the Mikar Kasha, those certain types of fish, they're called Kasha, Dr. Shbam, surrounding this chest. So Nachas, why in Ayin Dalam Beis, Bar Mariah sent a diver, Adam Sheadea Lashat, Dr. Shbam. To go get this chest. Viragash, one of the fish, this karsha fish, felt that he's coming. Ubay l'shanti l'atmi, wanted to, catch him by his thigh and eat him. Shebika shlach l'chireisha. So what happened was, shad zika dechala, he threw in a bottle of vinegar, and the smell got rid of the fish. V'nochas. Nafak baskala, Baskal came out of Amalon, my islachu b'hadi kartila. So who does belong to this chest? The Yesud, the Rechanina Madaisa, this belongs to the wife of Rechanina Madaisa. Why? Dasida, the Shadet Chelos, but has the Chelos in there. Let's Tzaddik Alama for the As love it for the Tzaddikim. The As of Yehuda, Hinda, from Ethiopia, Mishtay Zimna, Yosef says, that was one time in a ship, Chazina, who Evan Tava. I saw this beautiful Evan, that have a hard delay, Tanina, that the sea monster, again, was he swallowed this, I guess he swallowed this Evan. Nachas by Mariah sent the diver Lasuya, Asa Tanina. What happened was, came there's another sea monster called Boil that wanted to swallow up the whole ship. Also, Pishkasana, we learned earlier, it's this female raven. Pascal Resha chopped off the head of this monster, sea monster. The ocean turned into blood. Also, Tanina Chavre, come another sea monster Shakla Vitaliale. Again, he grabbed this Evan Tava, was able to revive people and put it on the Tanina, and he was able to revive. Again, he wanted to what? Swallow the ship. Hadas et Sifra, I sent out the bird, Pascal Resha chopped off Zach, Shaklu Lahu Evan Tava. I took the mice of this stone. Shadulis I put on the ship. Hava Hanit Sifri Melicha. There was a bunch of birds that were getting salted by dawn. So Svina Alai, the mice, what did I do? I put this Evan Tava on these birds, Shaklua. The Taka woke up, Parkhulahu Bada. The Taka revived these birds, but they ended up losing this Evan Tava. They took it with their mouths and they ran off with it, they never saw it. Tana Abana Meiser, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shua, Sheibai Messina, Rabbi Lazar, Yashin, Rabbi Shua, Neir. He was up in his Dazeir, Rabbi Yeshua, and he woke up suddenly, he trembled. Venina, Rabbi Lazar, Amalei, Mazi Yeshua. What did you see? Why were you trembling? Amalei says, Ma'ar Gadol Reisi B'yam. I saw this massive light. Amalei, maybe you were zeichet to see Shema Eino Shel Yasser Reisa. Why? Dechsev, Eino of his eyes, Ka'afe Shachar, his eyelids, mamish look like the dawn. Amar Rav Ashi, Amalei Huna Bar Nasa Zimna Chadav Kazina Bar Madra was one time going in the desert. The Havu Atama, the best we had these shinks of meat, Pesachna, we opened them in a krino, we ripped it all off, Anachna Isfi, put on herbs to eat it. And the Messinon, Tzivi Cholam, we put on Atama Vitavinon. We put on this fully thing, we roasted it with this firewood and everything. Grass. What did they put on?
Grass.
Herbs. Oh, yeah, more of a herbs, right? Herbs, grass to feed it. We came back after 12 months. We saw these coals, David Kamalachshi was still going on. You know why? Who isva samsri havos, a special type of herbs. In the last rabbi, huani havahanu gumri the risma have, and these coals are also these special coals of the risma. That's why it lasted so long. Next week we're going to pick up all about, again, with more gata zachar nekeva barasam. Next week we're going to pick up Ayin Dalid Amid Bais.